Yeah, guys, I appreciate everyone kind of showing up. I'll try to run. I think I have about 15 minutes here. I'll try to run through this. Hopefully leave a little bit of gap there. So I'm going to run through what I'm calling like the mental model for building applications on Bitcoin Web3. So first of all, let's discuss like what is Bitcoin Web3. So I'm defining Bitcoin Web3 as a suite of protocols that we can use that are sufficiently decentralized for the application or the use case that they are being used for. Okay, so there's historically been this narrative that it needs to be Bitcoin layer 1 or nothing, or Bitcoin layer 1 or go home. And I think there's a lot of value in Bitcoin layer 1 for certain applications and certain use cases, but I think you really supercharge this when you introduce other protocols and potentially weave multiple protocols into an application. This is how you achieve a user experience that solves the problems that people in the real world have, right? All of the applications that we have in Web 2, I really don't see a reason why we can't completely swap out the backend with a suite of protocols from Web 3. And it would be very hard to do that if it was 100% Bitcoin layer 1. So yeah, basically that is the kind of model we're thinking about in our head. We're taking the Web 2 user experiences and we can, create new user experiences, but largely Web 3 is not a technology that is a visual technology. This is a set of backend protocols. Okay, so we don't have to revolutionize the user experience necessarily. We can probably steal a lot from what Web 2 got right. Okay, so what we see is, this is like the model that we've seen work on other chains, and I think is starting to come to Bitcoin. And that is, you have a app or a website. Okay, this is like the user experience that the end user is going to. This is what they know. They don't necessarily know all of the underlying protocols exactly, but they know they go to this app or this website and it does a thing for them. It allows them to, solve some sort of problem or do something cool. Okay. And then we have a browser extension for a wallet, or we have an app wallet, and these manage your public-private key pair. So, for Bitcoin, that would be your public-private key pair. For Nostr, you have a public-private key pair. And we're seeing these wallets like Xverse and Hero emerge that allow you to basically take all of that, just like kind of very important kind of ownership of your identity and wallet and lock that away in this little box. Okay, and it's pretty safe there. Okay, and you as a developer get to build an application that can talk to that box. Okay, that can talk to that wallet, so that it can sign, so that you can have users sign transactions, so that you can read from that wallet, maybe the domain name that's associated with the wallet address. And the whole kind of thing here is, and this is like a bit of a game changer where, Web3 probably suffers from a worse user experience in many ways compared to Web 2, but not in the wallet connecting to websites way. If anybody's ever had the experience of going to a website, clicking connect, and in 1 second, you have essentially done the steps that in Web 2 would have been, creating an account, verifying your email, logging in again, checking out with your credit card by plugging in credit card numbers. All of these things are completely gone, right? The Web3 paradigm completely gets rid of that and introduces this much better way to basically own your data and own your password. And that is obviously your private key, okay? So the opportunity here, in my opinion, I think Bitcoin now has enough infrastructure to start to build really cool applications on top of it, okay? So I'm imagining using protocols. So there's Bitcoin, which obviously has the Bitcoin currency. There's Ordinals, which is what we'll consider to be the non-fungible token standard on Bitcoin. There is Counterparty, which is also a Bitcoin layer 1 protocol for semi-fungible and fungible tokens. There are people building fungible tokens on Bitcoin with BRC20. There's the Lightning Network. Okay, there's Stacks, and then there's Nostr. And I kind of went through that in order of like how secured it is by layer 1 versus just Nostr is obviously not secured by layer 1 at all. But together, by using one of these wallets, you can talk to the wallet's API, and they're all integrating these like 6 protocols into the wallet. And it allows you to do really interesting things. So just like one very basic example, if you're building an application on top of Bitcoin, It might have nothing to do with, user profiles or social or anything like that, but it's pretty cool that you can connect to a wallet. And then instead of displaying the wallet address up there, you could display the domain name, the human readable domain name that the user has associated with that wallet. And for people who are, over in the Ethereum and Solana and these other ecosystems, this has kind of been around for a while, and Bitcoin's a little bit late to the game here. But I think it's a really important kind of user experience upgrade for people to be able to take this profile, kind of float around the internet, float around these different apps. That profile comes with them. They see their username, they see their profile picture. This is a kind of neat user experience that I personally love. And I love being able to just click a button and check out in like 2 seconds. So, as far as what these actual applications could be, I am not going to be giving like necessarily recommendations. You guys can probably come up with way cooler ideas than I could on the spot here, but think about Web 2. What are people doing on the internet? Like, what organically has product market fit? What are people spending their time on the internet doing? Are they sending messages to each other? Are they in group chats? Are they, following each other on social graphs, on social networks? Are they consuming content? What types of content are they consuming? Are there different applications for different types of content? Are people shopping? There's all of these things people do on the internet, and like all of these crazy apps like Uber and Airbnb that, again, I'm sure there will be equivalent of in Web3 that I'm not going to be able to come up with those crazy ideas right here. But when we have hackathons like this is like the perfect time to try a crazy idea, in my opinion. Like, it's okay if it's a crazy, silly idea. Like, why not spend a few days just hacking away on something pretty wild and seeing what happens? Like, some of the craziest innovations started as like pretty gnarly early experiments, including Bitcoin, right? Like, Bitcoin was, gambling, drugs for the first several years of its existence, and certainly probably wouldn't have been an acceptable hackathon application. But, regardless, there are interesting applications that you can try to build. So I'm going to now discuss some, basically tools you have and primitives that you have to work with. So we've talked about, you have this wallet, the Hero and the Express APIs that you can connect to. And you have these protocols that are in this wallet that you can talk to, like Stacks and Nostr and Lightning Network and Bitcoin and Ordinals and Counterparty. And they all kind of do slightly different things. I'm going to talk about now the primitives on Bitcoin that you have to work with. So fungible tokens are probably like the number one, right? Like, this is, the primitive of, we have slices of a pie, shares in an organization, basically little pieces of a whole. And of course, the Bitcoin currency is the number one fungible token on Bitcoin. And then we have, a bunch of these other counterparty tokens right now. So not super popular necessarily, but we're seeing interest in BRC20 and counterparty. And this tells me that, probably the Ethereum ecosystem, which has, roughly a 50-50 ratio between the market cap of the ETH native currency and all of the fungible tokens, Bitcoin is like way off from that right now. And I imagine over the coming years, like, there's no real reason why people, would want to do fungible tokens on Ethereum to the scale that they do and not do fungible tokens on Bitcoin. So I'm very much expecting the fungible token primitive to grow. And I think you can integrate fungible tokens into your applications in kind of interesting ways. Semi-fungible tokens, this is a counterparty and stamps. So this is like mini pies that have slices. So imagine a trading card collection where there's like 100 baseball cards, but then there's like 1,000 of each type of baseball card that's unique. This is what we call semi-fungible. And then there's non-fungible. This is NFTs. This is the Ordinals protocol. You can also do this with stamps and counterparty. And these are where you're going to have a unique asset that there's nothing similar to it. And basically, this could be like a profile picture. Like, we like profile pictures as non-fungible tokens because, we're humans. We all have unique faces. We like a unique identity. We don't consider ourselves to be, the just replica of all other humans. So there's certain use cases where a non-fungible token will make sense for that. And yeah, basically there's these other kind of interesting, tools in the Swiss Army knife that you can pull out. So PSBTs is an interesting way that people are using right now to do atomic swap transactions. So all of the ordinal marketplaces, so the Bitcoin NFT marketplaces, they're using PSBTs to basically allow a wallet to say, hey, I've got this, image of Pepe. I would like to list it for 1 Bitcoin. If you send 1 Bitcoin to this through this transaction, it will automatically send you the Pepe and it will transfer the 1 Bitcoin to me. Okay. So this is like a very simple technology that over the last 2 months, we've seen Magic Eden, Gamma, Ordinals Wallet, OrdSwap, bunch of these marketplaces pop up built on this single, it's been on Bitcoin for, a very long time. And nobody ever like thought that you could use it as atomic swaps like this necessarily, or at least they didn't build applications that people use. So this is just one example where a very simple tool in that Swiss Army knife, you can build entire applications around that. There's also interesting DeFi experiments. This is all really early stuff, and I'm not going to go into that too much because that is not my area of expertise, but just know there are like interesting ways you can do DeFi on Bitcoin layer 1, which is pretty cool. And then I'll kind of wrap up here by saying, I talked about a lot of things, mentioned a lot of protocols. I didn't really go in depth. This was really about establishing a mental model, a framework for you to think about, basically building applications on a platform, and that platform being Bitcoin Web3. You get to leverage a bunch of protocols, a bunch of primitives, some other things in the Swiss Army knife like PSBTs, and you get to talk to these wallets, which I actually encourage you to think of as a profile. They're a person, right? And it holds their money, it holds their identity in it. It holds the ability for them to take actions. Okay. And you can use all of these things, and they all in general have APIs. I'm just going to try to point you to a few, really good, simple, easy to use ones. So the wallets I talked about, Hero and Xverse, go to hero.so or xverse.app. You can just go to their documentation and quickly see as a developer how you can, have your application talk to these wallets. Again, it's pretty simple. They have, NPM packages. You'll just install them, import them to your site, and you should be up and running like really, really quickly there. And then as far as talking to Ordinals or getting information about the blockchain from Ordinals or Stacks, you can go to hero.so, and then in their developer documentation, you'll see, basically they have these APIs that allow you to just really simply, like their Ordinals API, there's no rate limits. You'll literally just say like, I want all of the 100 newest inscriptions, or I want inscription with this ID. And it'll just fetch you an object that has that inscription. And, you can start to take that object and do like fun things in a user interface with that object. So, and then, mempool.space has an API as well. I do think it's rate limited, so you have to be kind of careful there, but I think it's good enough for a hackathon to kind of have a proof of concept. So this is kind of what I would recommend. Think about a fun, kind of application that, doesn't necessarily exist on Bitcoin today. And that maybe it exists in Web 2, or maybe it exists on Ethereum, or maybe it doesn't exist at all. And go out there and build an application that connects to a wallet, and maybe shows some of these primitives in the user interface and accomplishes some sort of fun, interesting thing where ultimately you can just link on Twitter, hey, go to this site and you can do this kind of fun thing, or it solves this little, basic problem for you. That's a really cool outcome for Bitcoin. Right now, we have like 10 sites like this, 10 apps. I would love for there to be tens of thousands of websites that you can go to like this. This has only been a concept for like a few months now, basically. So I think I'm coming up on time here, Albert, but I very much appreciate you guys hearing my kind of mental model here, and I hope some people find it helpful.